Hey y'all, welcome to Restless Chipotle Kitchen. Today we are going to make one of the easiest holiday appetizers that you can ever make. It only takes about 15 minutes, just a few ingredients, so simple, and everybody oohs and ahs over it. They love it. So let's get started. You're going to need 8-ounce round of Brie. I like to use triple cream Brie because it's creamier and meltier, but you can use any Brie as long as it's in a full wheel and it's got the coating on it, okay? And the coating is edible. A lot of people don't like to eat it, and that's fine. And I suggest that if you're allergic to mold like I am, you're very careful about how much of the rind you actually eat, if any at all, but it is edible. You're going to want some brown sugar, some cinnamon, butter, salt, and I always add a pinch of cayenne pepper or chipotle when I'm using cinnamon. Not enough for it to give it flavor, but I like my cinnamon to be spicy, and this will do it. You may have to experiment and see how much your family likes in it, if any at all. Start with just a pinch. I use around 1/8 of a teaspoon, and that's just perfect for me. You do not have to use that at all. That's not in the recipe. The only reason you know that about me is because you're watching the video. But really, anytime that you're making pumpkin pie or anything with cinnamon, cloves, and that kind of spice, add a little pinch of chipotle powder or cayenne pepper, and you'll be amazed at the flavor that it gives it. You're going to need some bacon and an apple, and really that's it. Now, you could substitute pear for apple. You could make it part pear and part apple. I'm going to add some cranberries, some fresh cranberries, even though they're not in the actual recipe, but I think they'll be pretty, and I think they'll add lots of flavor. So just kind of do what you want. You could add onion, whatever you want in this, okay? So the first thing we're going to need to do is, and this goes together fast. You can prepare the apple and bacon part before, a couple of days ahead of time if you want to. And that makes it even faster. Once the apple and bacon part is done, which that's the topping, there's hardly any time at all. It doesn't take the Brie very much time at all to be done, okay? So it's like one of the quickest, easiest appetizers out there, but it looks so fussy and so fancy that most people aren't interested in making it. Well, you guys are going to know the secret. It's so easy, and you can do it so many ways. You can put pecans in this. You could put walnuts in this. It'd be absolutely delicious. You could drizzle some honey on top. You could drizzle maple syrup on top. You can do it easy. You can do it, fancy, however you want. But this is just a basic baked Brie. And then maybe another time I'll show you how to wrap it in puff pastry, because that's really pretty too. All right, so you're going to cut the bacon up, and you're going to cook that until it's crisp in a hot skillet. I think y'all all know how to cook bacon, so I'm just going to pull this over to the stove and start cooking it while we work on the apple part. You do not need to peel the apple. I'm using Envy apples today just because I had them. You could use Granny Smith's, you could use McIntosh, you could use Honeycrisp, you could use a combination of different types of apples. Y'all know I like to do that a lot, especially in like apple pie, because it gives a deeper apple flavor if you use several different types. But you only need one apple for this, so unless you just happen to have several types on hand and you're making something else with apples, you don't really need to worry about it. So you're going to cut the apple in half, cut it in quarters, cut it in eighths. I just find this is an easy way to core apples. It does have a little bit of waste, and that would bother my mother hugely because she grew up, she was an adult during the Depression, but it does not bother me. It saves me time. So the way that you do that is you just cut straight through, and you can cut it just straight down like that, and the core is magically gone, or most of it. Sometimes you get a little bit in there. And that's it. Makes it quick and easy. You do not need to peel these. I think leaving the peels on makes it prettier. Just cut them in a large dice or chop. Just cut them in a large dice or chop. It doesn't have to be all the same size. This is a very rustic look, and again, if y'all have been around for very long, you know that I have terrible knife skills, and so I don't really try to make them even. I like envy apples because, as far as for eating, because they have just such an old-fashioned flavor to them. You know, some of the apples they have now have almost no flavor. They've kind of, I guess, hybridized the flavor out of them. And every once in a while, if you can get like an old variety, if you have an apple orchard near you or something like that, you get an apple that just has so much flavor. It's so good. All right, so we are cooking the bacon. We're going to wait on the apples. I'm going to throw the apple cores in my bowl that goes out to the animals in the back, and then we'll get started on the rest of it. I have a little over 2 acres, and the back ½ acre or so is thick woods that backs up to a creek. And so I like to save all of my pairings and things like that, especially in the winter time, because there's all kinds of animals back there that appreciate it. Y'all totally didn't need to know that, but you know me, I overshare. All right, our bacon is cooked and it's crisp. And I'm going to take it out of the skillet and put it on some paper towel just to drain while I'm doing the rest. Keep in mind that this doesn't take long at all, especially if you're not trying to do a video and talk through it at the same time. What I like to do is, if I know I've got a party coming up, I will make the bacon and the apple part like several days ahead of time, and refrigerate it, or if it's more than that, I'll even freeze it. And then I've got it ready when it's time to make the baked brie. The other thing you can do is, like, even the night before your party or your get-together, you can actually, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to slice the top layer off of the baked brie, and you can go ahead and even have that done like a night ahead of time and just wrap it in plastic wrap, put it right back in the box with the top on it in the fridge, and then when you're ready, when you know your party's getting started, people are there, you can just plop the brie onto your pan that you're going to bake it on, and add the bacon and apples right on top, throw it in the oven, and it's just done in minutes, no mess. So easy. So just trust me on this. This is so easy. So you don't want to have all of this bacon grease. You want to keep about a tablespoon. I think that Jimmy Dean put his pigs on a diet because there isn't very much fat in there at all. I almost don't want to drain it. There's about 2 tablespoons in there. You want to leave about a tablespoon of fat in there. Let's see, I'm going to put the salt and cayenne pepper in with the cinnamon, so I've got a place for this fat. Right. You want to leave about a tablespoon of fat in there, That's maybe a little more than a tablespoon, but I'm gonna leave that. Just take that out. You don't want it, the point is you don't want it to be greasy. You just want it to have that bacon flavor. So then what we're gonna do is we're going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter in the same pan. And I'm gonna put it back on the stove to melt the butter, and then we'll put the apples in it and you'll see how it goes from there. Okay, our butter's melted and it's all in the pan. I don't want to let it brown. Sometimes I like the butter to be browned, but not for this. I'm going to just put my apples in there and take this back to the stove and saute them until they're tender. All right, the apples are crisp tender now. I've cooked them for about 2 minutes. They still are, like when you try to cut through them, there's still a little bit of give back, but they've started to become tender. And since I'm planning on putting cranberries in here, I'm going to add, maybe a handful of cranberries. I don't want it to turn to cranberry sauce, but I think a few cranberries will be nice. And then I'm going to mix up the cinnamon and sprinkle it over the top, and the brown sugar, and sprinkle it over the top. Well, you don't sprinkle brown sugar, you just kind of put it in there. And then I'm going to stir it so that all of the apples and the cranberries are covered. And then I'm going to cook that for a few more minutes until the apples are tender. Okay, I've cooked these apples and cranberries just until the cranberries started to pop and the sugar melted and got syrupy. It's kind of thickened. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to set this aside. I want to keep it warm. If I'm serving like today, right now, I would want to keep this warm, and then I want to get started on the brie. I haven't forgotten about the bacon. That doesn't go on until much later. Let me put this back on the stove. It'll stay nice and warm in this pan, and let's work on the brie. You want to have your oven set for 325 before you even start this, because it needs to be completely up to temperature before you put the brie in there, okay? I'm going to use this little iron skillet to bake the brie on, but you can use any kind of baking pan or anything. What I suggest you do is put your brie on some parchment paper, and then I like to kind of fold it in so it doesn't show so much. But this will help keep the pan cleaner, easier to clean, and I'm all about easy to clean. And I just fold that in under, and then I'm going to fold this piece under if it will cooperate. There. Just because I don't like the parchment paper to show. But now, if you are baking the brie on a baking pan and you're going to move it from the baking pan to your serving dish, then you're going to want to have the parchment paper big enough that you can pick it up and move it over and slide it onto your serving dish, okay? All right, so then the first thing that we do is we're going to take a very sharp knife and we're going to slice a thin layer from the top. And I like to keep it pretty thin, oops. But it needs to be enough that you can, that this comes off. I'd suggest kind of pushing the knife down. That'll help. Let's see, we'll put that in there. That does not go out to my animals in the back, by the way, because I don't think that they need the mold, which is what this is. And it grosses people out. Sometimes it grosses my kids out, but the brie is so good that it's so worth it. All right, And I don't want to leave even that much on there, so I'm going to continue to kind of slice this off until I get most of the rind off the top of the cheese, if not all. There we go. Kind of being hard to get along with here. I'm sure that people do this much more efficiently, but welcome to my world. Okay. It's not going to show because it's all going to be melted. All right, so we have the top rind off of the cheese, mostly. And we're at this point, we're going to take it, we're going to put it in a 325-degree oven for 8 to 10 minutes, or until the cheese is soft and melting. Be sure to set a timer on that, because if you're anything like me, you're going to totally forget about it. While the brie is baking, I've prepared this board. Now this is where that skillet is going to go so that it doesn't burn my board. I've arranged some different crackers around it. And I've got grapes in case I want to put those on, which I probably do. I'm just going to fit those in. But the thing with the brie is, as soon as it comes out of the oven, you need to put the topping on and serve it, because as it gets cold, it solidifies. Now, being on an iron skillet keeps it hotter a little bit longer. You can also buy like special baking dishes for baked brie that will keep it warmer longer. But ultimately, it's going to cool down and it's going to thicken back up. So you don't want, once it's out of the oven and once it's on here, you don't want to take a lot of time to fuss. So while it's baking, go ahead and arrange your crackers, get the fruit out that you think you might want to use, and get it all ready so that when you put the brie on there, it's ready to serve right away. If you've made the apples and bacon ahead of time, this is the time, while it's baking, to get them out and warm those up in just a frying pan or in the microwave a little bit, not till they're mushy, but warm the apples and bacon up separately. And that way, everything's ready when it comes out of the oven. Here's our brie. I'm gonna take a cracker real quick so that I can show you that it's just very creamy and gooey, and that's what we want, okay? So as soon as it reaches that point where it will coat the cracker, you want to get your apples and put those on as quickly as possible, which I'm not doing very quickly. You want to get those apples on as quickly as possible. And let them, go over the side a little bit. That's fine. It's going to make it goo over the sides as the weight of the apples pushes down the brie. And I'm going to get the rest of the juice that's in the pan, or the glaze, or whatever you want to call it, and put that over the top, because that's got lots and lots of flavor in it. Then I'm going to sprinkle it with my bacon. Look at that, how that's going down there. And then this is where I'm going to take the grapes and I'm going to arrange them so that, the pan looks full and pretty. I'm going to take off any crackers that I spilled brie on. And you want to do this really fast. Again, it's a little harder to do something this quickly when you are also trying to get the video done. But you want to do this really quickly. There is our yummy baked brie, our cheese platter. Y'all, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Just dip your cracker in and pull it up. So good. Y'all, look how gooey this is. So good. I'm gonna get this up close so you can just really get an idea of the goo here. Yeah. It's absolutely delicious. Everybody loves it. And it's so, so, so easy to make. I know that you're gonna wanna give it a try, okay? I hope you love it. I do hope you try it. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and a nice comment. And I'll see y'all next week, okay? Love y'all. Bye.